of innovative payment solutions, and thank you for joining me today. I thought I would follow up on my last podcast and elaborate a little bit more on where we're going and continue to talk about the focus from the management at Ipsi. We didn't get really in depth about what we're doing in the merchant processing business with our partners that we talked about, Tabapay, as well as Paisley. And I thought, we'd spend a little bit of time, explaining the vision, how we're going to execute that, and how we differentiate from the rest of the market. We're building this Fintech with incredible partners, and we're going to leverage those partners with the relationship capital that we have around the world. And what that means is we're going to take world-class players in gaming and iGaming, as well as some high-risk industries for merchant processing like cannabis, and introduce them to these partners of ours with the strong relationships they have and that behind them with the banks that they do business with every single day. And with that, we feel that we can become what we consider to be, the Zelle of merchant processing. What does that mean? Currently, if you look at the landscape of high-risk merchant processing, there are several issues that continue every single day in the business. One is the speed of the transactions and the settlement of that, as well as the KYC and AML required. It's extensive in processing these transactions. So what we have with partners that have an incredible architecture behind them is the ability to set ourselves apart on multiple fronts. What we have is the ability to settle instantly. What that means is a merchant, for example, in iGaming or online gaming, sports betting, would sometimes have to wait several days to get paid. They need large amounts of reserves against those transactions in case there's some, let's call it chargebacks or bad debt. What we have with our partners is the ability to settle instantly. And with that, an extensive KYC and AML, as we discussed on the last podcast, the Tabapay Shield allows us to do an extensive amount of work behind the scenes before we actually do the transaction that makes the bank that stands behind the transaction, as well as Tabapay, feel more comfortable, as well as Paisley, that the transaction will go through smoothly and there's no fraud involved in that. And so if one can settle these transactions quickly with extensive KYC and AML, you're mitigating chargebacks. And as we speak, the chargeback situation is a major problem in high-risk transactions like gaming, for example. There occasionally one will make a bet and say they didn't make that bet. So how do you mitigate that? How do you reduce the percentages of chargebacks? So we are focused as we speak with Paisley as well as Tabapay on the open banking architecture. And for example, if we do these transactions on the Paisley side, we have an incredible bank behind us that is called Esquire Bank. It publicly trades on NASDAQ. It's a billion-dollar company. They've been in business for over 19 years. And the projects that we have at hand are to basically enhance that transaction in high risk. On an open banking platform, for example, which we're actually involved with Paisley in building, you have the ability to settle instantly. And that's a bank-to-bank transfer, unlike most transactions these days, which occur through the Visa or MasterCard rails. And in doing so, it settles instantly and mitigates chargebacks completely. So if it settles instantly like a Zelle would from consumer to consumer, it is almost impossible to refute the transaction and say that that person didn't make that bet. So we see speed in settlement. We also see the KYC AML infrastructure behind these companies that are doing billions of dollars in business, very beneficial to Ipsi and its shareholders. We also feel that the open banking platform enables us to price these transactions much lower than what they're currently being charged. One of the, in the merchant processing business, for example, on the high risk gaming, you have 160 to let's call it 175 billion dollar a year business. And there's several players. There are the big players that we all have known and seen in their casinos, but on the online gaming side, it's somewhat fragmented, and it allows us to build market share with smaller players as well as the big players by offering a price that's more advantageous to both the merchant as well as the banks and the players that are involved in the transaction, like Ipsi. In doing so, we build a business based on speed, lower mitigating chargebacks, and a lower price. We also want to bring into all of this the blockchain and AI that's becoming more and more prevalent every single day. We think that the supply chain as well as the data analytics that we can put together will give us a tremendous advantage and more value in these transactions. For example, on the gaming side, as we integrate these companies into our partners, they have millions and millions of customers, a lot of the larger online gaming companies. And there's great value in those customers. In the big picture, which would be 2.0, we would like to start thinking about building a neobank with these companies and creating revenue streams for our existing merchant gaming companies that doesn't exist today, and the ability to build a Chime-like model where you can go back to your partners doing the processing with these large gaming companies and offer them, their millions and millions of customers, the ability to have a neobank. What does that mean? The neobank, like the Chime model, allows these merchants to offer consumer-facing financing products, consumer-facing products like let's call it installment loans, insurance, even let's call it brokerage firm accounts on these gaming platforms and neobank platforms. So we feel that we have the right partners in this. We're very confident in their ability to scale, because they've already proved that, which is a real problem when you're trying to grow the business. Scale is about as important as anything, because if you bring in your relationships, you've got to be able to represent that those businesses can grow exponentially. We feel that both of our partners have that. They've proven that, and we're very excited about what the future looks like on the gaming side. And we feel that if we can also continue to build on the moving of the money into countries using blockchain and AI, the intersection between consumer and merchant, and the ability to move the money and protect the merchants and the banks involved in those transactions sets us apart. So we're very excited about the future. We'll continue to keep you abreast on what we're doing on a timely fashion, and we appreciate you tuning in today and look forward to a prosperous journey with you. Thank you very much. Take care.